For Gary Goldman and Don Bluth, the earliest development for a movie centering around a dog was back when they made their first feature film, The Secret of NIMH, where they were developing an anthology film with 3 stories. One of them were meant to be a loving spoof for detective films, featuring a German Shepherd as the private eye. The role was tailor-made for Burt Reynolds. However, the film only got as far as the storyboard stage, as Don Bluth's first studio went under bankruptcy, halting the development of many other feature films. Although Don and Gary's luck would soon change, thanks to an established studio in Dublin and the Irish government wanting to expand job opportunities, blessed Don and Gary government funding, and a further intervention from Steven Spielberg and his company Amblin helped to support the next 2 Don Bluth movies, An American Tail and The Land Before Time. These films were created under the new Don Bluth company, Sullivan Bluth Studios, with a business tycoon, Lawrence Sullivan, aiding the company's finances. By the late 80s, he had upgraded the animation equipment, spending roughly $4.5 million. He did have further plans to expand the studio, to focus on TV shows, live-action movies, and even the company's own TV channel. But these plans never really came to fruition. In early 1988, Sullivan had refocused his attention by becoming part of Goldcrest Films. Thanks to some persuasion, they would fund the next 3 Don Bluth movies, allocating a budget for each film between 13 and 14 million. The way that the system was set up allowed Don Bluth and Gary Goldman more creative control in comparison when they were under Amblin. Their first movie under the Goldcrest contract was All Dogs Go to Heaven, taking loose inspiration from the scrapped German Shepherd movie of the early 80s. One of the biggest contributing factors of the company wanting to do a dog movie is that some of the highest grossing animated films at the time all centered around dogs, such as The Lady and the Tramp, 101 Dalmatians, and at least in my personal opinion an underrated gem, The Fox and the Hound. When the film was first announced, the press was somewhat perplexed by the title, finding it overly sweet and cheesy, with even several media commentators laughingly poking at the title. Because of the feedback of the title, rumours were going around that the film was going to be renamed Charlie the Heavenly Dog, but the crew never had any intention of changing the title. Don Bluth would later comment on the critics of the name title: "If you either believe in an afterlife or not, it's just the kind of title to make you smile." Don Bluth got the idea for the title, recalling hearing a children's story back when he was in the 4th grade, sharing the same title, All Dogs Go to Heaven. Films that aided as an influence during the scripting process were the following: A Guy Named Joe, Little Miss Marker, and It's a Wonderful Life. In the late 2000s and early 2010s, if you were frequently watching online content reviews, you may be familiar with the meme that was frequently used in the subgenre, titled The Big Lipped Alligator Moment. Oh, I've always wanted to say that. It refers to the alligator number that was first seen in All Dogs Go to Heaven, first being invented in the Nostalgia Critic and Nostalgia Chick crossover, The Review on Ferngully. The meme is more or less a critique on a movie, where during its runtime, there'll be a moment that seems oddly random, with such a stark contrast tone, where not only it seems out of place, but it has no bearing on the story, and is never referred to again for the rest of the movie's runtime. Now, there have been many critics over the meme, saying that the film isn't warrant of this, as the alligator does reappear in the 3rd act, and contributes into killing off Carface. But then yet again, there is still the opposition, that there's no setup or build-up for the alligator, and nobody, aside from a throwaway bit of dialogue at the end credits, still doesn't acknowledge the alligator. So, does the movie warrant or deserve the label of Big Lips Alligator Moment? Well, that's up for the individual to decide. I'm just here to state the facts. The Big Lips Alligator, or King Gator, that being his official name, there was meant to be a slightly bigger reason why he was there, and not just for a random musical number. In early versions of the story, King Gator was meant to be driven out by Carface, forced to reside within the swamps, making the both of them arch rivals. King Gator would have been a very intimidating character by the beginning of the story, but the song Let's Make Music Together would have been a breakdown to show his softer side, and additionally would have shown King Gator siding with Charlie, hence why King Gator was responsible for finishing off Carface by the end of the film, and assisting Charlie into escaping during the beginning of the finale. Charlie was played by Burt Reynolds, who was, as you can remember, the original first choice. He gladly agreed to participate in the film, but under the agreement that his name wouldn't be used in the promotion for the film. Don DeLuise, who had previously been in the first two Don Bluth movies, The Secret of NIMH and An American Tail, would lend his voice to Itchy. This wouldn't mark the last time he'd voice a character for a Don Bluth movie, as he would later on be in the film A Troll in Central Park, where he would voice the main lead Stanley. The only time he ever got the privilege of voicing a main character for a Don Bluth movie. Him and Burt Reynolds had previously worked together before, and they insisted to the director Don Bluth and co-director Gary Goldman to record their lines together, not usually a common practice with animated films, as the actors would usually record their lines separately, but the directors agreed to it. DeLuise and Reynolds outlived so much that Bluth found himself preferring the improvised lines, as well the voice for Carface and Killer, Vic Tayback, and Charles Nelson Riley, respectively improvised in the same fashion by recording their dialogue together. Judas Barcey, a child actress who appeared in films of Eye of the Tiger, Jaws: The Revenge, and lending her voice for Ducky in the previous Don Bluth movie, The Land Before Time, played as Anne-Marie in All Dogs Go to Heaven. She was going to be involved for the promotional build-up of the movie's release, and the company wanted her to be a regular for future animated films. But rather tragically, this was never meant to be. By the hands of her ill-felt father, her life was tragically cut short. When Don Bluth heard the news, he insisted that he needed a day off just to collect his thoughts. The animators greatly preferred All Dogs Go to Heaven than the prior Don Bluth movie, The Land Before Time, as the characters were more relatable and fun for the animators to draw. With the majority of the hand-drawn work done only within less than a year of the movie's release, the animators sternly got to work. Unlike An American Tail and The Land Before Time, the animators were more secluded and worked independently, and apparently the animation work lineup ran quite smoothly. Sullivan Bluth Studio additionally had a headquarters set up in the US, which managed their fair share of animation workload. The slowly rising computer division at the Bluth Studio, who prior to All Dogs Go to Heaven focused their attention on commercial work, implemented some early CGI for the film, only in a very small capacity. This included the mechanical machinery for the cranes for when Itchy is building Charlie's new place, and a CGI car was created for running down the pier. During the movie's test screenings, some of the more thrilling moments of the film proved to be a little bit intense for the younger viewers. The initial cut for All Dogs Go to Heaven was rated a PG by the MPAA. The crew deemed the PG rating to be unacceptable for an animated film like All Dogs Go to Heaven. They wanted a film that would be exceptional for a younger viewer to watch, independently without the need of parental guidance. The process was a difficult balancing act to remove the more intenser moments, but then at the same time trying to retain Don and Gary's vision for the film. The known deleted scenes that were removed was an extended nightmare sequence where Charlie was in hell, and then the scene with Charlie's death, where certain shots with the vehicle, especially the impact shot of the car hitting Charlie, were deleted for the G-rated cut, as well as some blasphemous cursing, or only words that the Americans find quite upsetting.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
However, there was one curse word that was retained for the soundtrack. In the song Let Me Be Surprised, Charlie utters a little bit of profanity, while muted in the theatrical release. It did accidentally made it in the vinyl release.
Damn that Carface, I'll kill him.
The name of a Tommy gun had to be redubbed, as rather tragically, shortly before the movie was completed, a school shooting had taken place in California, an all too common occurrence in the US, with the aftermath of the situation of the children being fatal. In fear of using a real-world gun may have been in poor taste, the line was changed to a fictionalized atomic and ray gun instead.
A Flash Gordon thermo-atomic ray gun, boss.
A ray gun.
MGM and UA handled the distribution in the North American release. All Dogs Go to Heaven had the privilege of having its trailer featured in front of the James Bond movie A License to Kill. When it was released on November 17th of 1989, it faced some steep competition by premiering the same day as The Little Mermaid, a Disney production, where a year prior, the Don Bluth movie The Land Before Time opened the same day alongside Disney's Oliver and Company. And while worldwide, the Don Bluth movie outgrossed the Disney film, and generally critics preferred The Land Before Time, All Dogs Go to Heaven was a complete opposite story. Critics were very harsh into comparing the movie within The Little Mermaid Shadow. The film was made on a budget of $13 million, but domestically and worldwide was only able to produce $27 million. And those of you who know how ticket systems work, where theatres keep 50% of the shares, All Dogs Go to Heaven only just broke even with its budget, but then accommodating the financial marketing expense, which was about $10 million, and promotional tie-ins that were worth about $20 to $30 million, the movie at the very least needed to make $35 million to recoup all the expenses. The film essentially lost a lot of money. A year after the movie was released, MGM teamed up with Downey to do an advertisement campaign worth $13 million for the movie's VHS release, featuring brand new original animation of the characters from the film provided by Don Bluth Studio, giving one another the VHS tape as a present for the holiday season. And thankfully it paid off, as the campaign made a grand total of $75 million. As of right now, the animation advertisement campaign is not available to watch anywhere, barring a live-action commercial that uses dogs, discussing about their families purchasing the tape, although Sullivan Bluth Studios wasn't out of trouble just yet. Due to some complicated debt, they were stipulated that they owned Goldcrest Films $300,000, but they were able to resolve the debt outside of court. In exchange, they had to hand over some major assets, like the artwork from their previous feature films, which they were able to make a small business of selling off the original animation cells. Furthermore, Goldcrest Film would end their contract with their next feature film, Rockadoodle, even though their original contract stipulated that they would fund 3 films. All Dogs Go to Heaven bookmarked the beginning of Don Bluth movies that would not financially recoup their expenses for the remaining time of his Irish studio. Don Bluth owned a 35mm print of the original cut, and with the new projects being developed of All Dogs Go to Heaven, like the sequel and the TV series, Don Bluth was planning to ask Goldcrest Films to do a special director's cut VHS release, although unfortunately, while the film was protected, in a locked-up storage room, somebody had broken in and stole the content within. To date, it's not known on what happened to the stolen goods, but thankfully, it does appear that it wasn't the only copy produced. There's currently an archival extended cut of All Dogs Go to Heaven, albeit without a score. One of the former animators at Sullivan Bluth Studios presented the full uncut nightmare sequence in a 2016 summer art program. The content was secretly recorded and uploaded on Tumblr. As of right now, it's the only deleted scene that has somewhat been accessible for everyone to see. Only time will tell if anything more will ever come to surface.